Are you curious about life as a police officer? Have you ever wanted to ride along during a patrol shift? Or learn how to investigate a crime scene? Chief Kurt Frizz invites you to join the St. Charles County Citizen Police Academy. This free 12-week program offers citizens of St. Charles County an unprecedented look into the daily operations of their police department through classroom and field instruction. Classes meet Monday evenings between 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. beginning September 13th. Go behind the scenes and learn about the patrol division, crime lab analysis, bomb disposal, air operations, SWAT, crime scene processing, community education, use of force, less lethal weapons, firearms training, and much more. To be eligible for the Citizens Police Academy, applicants must be a resident of St. Charles County, be at least 21 years of age, possess a valid driver's license, and consent to a criminal background check. Classes fill up fast, so apply early. The deadline for applications is July 16th. Applications are available on sccmo.org/police. If you have questions, please call 636-949-3057 or send an email to sccpdcitizenacademy@sccmo.org. Be sure to follow St. Charles County Police Department on Facebook and Twitter for additional updates.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Lunch and Learn today. We have a great conversation about scams coming up. My name is Ryan Henson, and welcome to the St. Charles County Police Department Summer Lunch and Learn event. And I'm with Five on Your Side, KSK, and I'm joined today by St. Charles County Police Chief Kurt Frizz, Bureau of Criminal Investigations Captain David Tiefenbrun, and Amy Haywood, Chief Counsel of Consumer Protection for the Missouri Attorney General's Office. Today's topic is an issue I think everybody can relate with, and it's plaguing hardworking Americans, robbing them of their hard-earned money. We're talking about scams, so I'm sure everybody has a nice little personal story about this, and hopefully get a lot of questions cleared up. So in a recent report by the FBI, they suggested more than $3.5 billion has been lost to scams in 2020, and the majority of those victims, sadly, were seniors. So we're hoping today's discussion just offers a little more insight on how to avoid scams, if not for you, maybe a loved one or a family friend or someone close to you. So you're invited to join the discussion by sharing this event with family, friends on Facebook, YouTube, social media. We all know those methods of getting the word out there, and encourage everybody to send in questions via the chat feature. It's going to be really informal. We just want, bottom line, everybody to learn something and learn a way they can protect themselves. So before we start, I'd like to give a special thank you to Five on Your Side and McDonald's, Christian Foods for donating gift cards for our raffle winners. And look below to see if you are a lucky winner. But now let's get right into the discussion. So Chief Frizz, help our viewers out understand what is a scam and kind of what are some of the ones that you guys are seeing.
Well, Ryan, thanks. I appreciate you moderating this today, and appreciate everybody joining in with us this afternoon or this morning. A scam that we're talking about today is activity where someone's going to try to acquire your personal information to fraud you out of funds, whether it be money, cash, get into your financial information. Whereas identity theft is a type of scam which individuals are going to acquire your identity, such as your name, social security number, and then they're going to use that to do unauthorized financial transactions into your, whether make purchases with your account numbers and, just basically scam you out of money.
And I know, these, people who do this are pretty creative. They hit you with phone calls, they hit you with ads over the internet, mail, in person. What are some of the common things that you see, or at least, or if there's anything recent right now that's going on that you guys are noticing?
Well, exactly. Between phone calls, pop-ups on your computer, on your mobile devices, there's a lot of different ways they do it. A lot of it's through the phone, though, and they try to acquire personal information, make threats, try to intimidate you to giving up your information. So there's a wide array of the ways they scheme their try to get your information. So everybody needs to be alert.
Mm-hmm. And are there any telltales that okay, off the bat, if they say that or if I hear something like that, I know something's funny?
Yeah, first of all, if you don't know, if you're not 100% sure who you're talking to on the phone or chatting with online, then it probably is a scam. But so before you give up any information, you want to verify who you're talking with, who you're chatting with, minimize how much personal information you're giving on the phone or online.
Because I'm going to bring in Amy Haywood into the conversation too. So obviously, we've all had scams or someone's tried to, run something by us, whether it worked or not. But how do you report them?
Sure. Well, you guys really hit the nail on the head with, it seems like they're coming at us from all different directions these days. If there's a way to communicate with us, the scammers will try to exploit that. It used to be they called on your landlines, they've moved to our cell phones. Now they're texting us, getting us through emails. So, what we tell people, we take complaints from consumer complaints from all over the state. We have a phone number that you can call, and I think they've got it right there at the bottom of the screen. It's 1-800-392-8222. That's our consumer protection hotline. And also you can go to our website, which has all of this information as well, and you can report scams to us. That's ago.mo.gov. And one of the reasons, and you're raising this with reporting, why is it so important to report? One is hopefully we catch the person. Number two is, even if we can't, you have now alerted us to this type of scam that's going on. We can use it to educate other people and hopefully have somebody else not fall for the same scam. And finally, what it also does is we look for patterns. So if we've got complaints, one or two complaints against an entity, it might be it might be a legitimate dispute between two private parties. If we've got a bunch of complaints that keep coming in against a particular business or a particular individual, now we've got a pattern. Now we're thinking this might be a scam, or this might be something where they're violating the law, and we try to help consumers, and it'll have us investigate more. So I always encourage reporting. Nothing is too small. Call us and we'll take a look.
And is there something that, this is something I've always wondered, is there something that we're doing unintentionally, maybe leaving too many emails out for all these stores that want our information or things like that, or that we, actions that we take day to day that might lead to unintentional risk exposure that maybe we could limit back and maybe, have a little more protection for ourselves?
Sure. So scammers are very good. A lot of times it's nothing we're doing. They're just finding new ways to exploit us. Something that I've seen recently, and everyone's probably noticed it, very popular thing that's going on right now is phishing emails. You had just mentioned emails and our information getting out there. Unfortunately, a lot of companies, legitimate companies, also get our email address and send us promos and things like that. And also companies that we do business with. So for example, I've had this happen to me personally, and I'm sure people have seen this. You get an email from Apple or Amazon, and it reports to be from them. And they say, there's a problem with your account. Log into this link. What they're doing is phishing for your account information and your personal information, so they can somehow, take your identity or take, somehow profit from you. What I always do is take a very careful look at your emails. If you do think you're getting something, maybe it's from your bank, and it looks, well, this is suspicious. My bank is telling me something's wrong with my account. Never click on that link that they give you. If you're really worried that there is a problem with your bank account or with your credit card or with your Amazon account, log in through your normal course. Log in through the way that you normally do. Use your password. Never put your information into that link. Another thing that I always look at when I get those emails to tell if they're legitimate, a lot of the scam emails will contain typos, grammatical errors, and that's kind of a tip off that this one's fake. So really read those emails, make sure they're fake. Never click on the link in those, but actually go to your real account and the way you normally would log in, or get the phone number off the business's website and call and say, is there a problem with my account? So those are just some ways to be careful, and really, you really want to avoid ever clicking on those links that you get in those emails.
Mm-hmm. And kind of as we transition, kind of into our next couple of parts too, older people, like we all kind of know, are targeted more, obviously more susceptibility. I'm sure technological barriers that come with it. Couldn't get that one out of my mouth. Talk about, is there some basic things that they should know, and how are those people even picked?
Well, a lot of times they're picked just because being older, they're a little more trusting of people. Sometimes they can be manipulated a little easier, and these scammers are very good. They make a good point and try and scare them into thinking that their loved ones may be in trouble or that someone needs money. And typically your seniors have a little more money and savings and stuff like that. So that's kind of why they're attracted to that. And it's best for them, for any seniors, that if they have kids in that still live around it, they get their kids involved with their finances. And if they suspect anything, they either call the company themselves or talk to a family member who can kind of look into things. And obviously the police department's always available to help them with that too.
And either you or Chief could probably tackle this next question. What are some risk factors and some protective measures? I know we've probably gone over a few, but if you could just circle back. And
I could take that. A lot of to eliminate those risk factors is stay up on your accounts. Check your credit card accounts daily. Get with your credit bureaus. Run a credit history check. See if anybody's opened accounts in your name. Go with credit locks. Get virus protection on your computers. Just simple things like that. The least amount of information you put out there, the better off you are. They can always get it in some manner, but you try and make it more difficult for them. It makes you less easy as prey.
So one thing I think I'm getting from this conversation, just double check everything that you see or hear just to verify it. It seems like, you'll know soon off the bat that, something's amiss, or, hey, this is something I need to take care of. Correct?
Correct.
And I know you were talking about some of the scare tactics. Here's one that I think, at least I've gotten, and I know a couple of other people have gotten. They say you have a warrant out or something like that, and you need to pay money. Obviously you scare them, law-abiding people with jail time. That's not what we want. But how do you know, or would that be another one? Just call the police station, or, or whomever they say that would be to verify that information. How would you go about, debunking that on the spot?
Well, first of all, law enforcement will never call you until you have a warrant out for your arrest and ask for money or a gift card or anything like that. So that's the first clue, is law enforcement doesn't do that. If there's any, you'll get something from the courts if you have a warrant out for your arrest. So that's the first clue. So you could always hang up on them and reach out for your local police department to find out if in fact they made that call, which you're going to find out they don't, because there is no law enforcement agency that is going to call you. And that's a pretty common one we hear about.
The other thing, if I could just add to that,
absolutely,
law enforcement will never ask you to send money over through a gift card or a credit card or something like that. So that's a big indicator that we wouldn't do that.
It would be typically would it be by mail, if anything?
Yeah, generally there'll be a notification once a warrant's been issued for your arrest. It'll come out of the courts that a warrant has been issued for your arrest, and that'll give you an opportunity to go take care of that matter. But the courts or law enforcement is not going to call you. The prosecuting attorney's office is not going to call you, and like the captain said, demand payment via gift card or anything else. We just don't do business like that.
And I know I'm sure we're done with our rounds of stimulus checks, but a handful of people have gotten them. Could you guys talk quickly, or I don't know who would be, either Chief or Captain Tiefenbroom, just about some of those stimulus check scams, and if you guys have been seeing anything, or just things folks should know? Well,
we certainly anticipate anytime there's a new round of some sort of financial gains being put out there, especially the stimulus checks, someone's going to try to take advantage of that and scam people out of their funds. The captain could probably talk about what we've seen so far.
Yeah, that's basically been the same thing. They know people have more money, so they're just trying the typical scams of, hey, your loved one's in jail, we need this, or you missed a court appearance, you need to submit money through a green dot card. The IRS, the scams that come out through the IRS just on a normal tax filing time are a lot too. And we typically don't realize that someone has had that happen to them until they go to file their taxes. Then the IRS said there's already a return on file. So at that point, we have guidance on our website that you can go to, and there's actually an IRS form that you need to fill out and complete that and return with your tax form. Let them know that someone's already used your Social Security number and filed a tax form and probably obtained a fraudulent refund.
Mm-hmm. And this one's for you, Amy. When we talk about case examples, do you guys have any good ones? And Talk about how hard it is trying to retroactively try to right these situations to kind of, as the captain was talking.
Yeah, talking about one thing that is key, and they've mentioned gift cards. Something that scammers, sure signs are when you're on the phone, or a lot of times it's on the phone and it's this immediate pressure to pay over the phone or do it now. You really always want to kind of slow down the transaction and never pay over the phone. But another key thing that they will try to do is get you to pay in untraceable methods, like a gift card. And we have definitely had reports to our office, hey, I just paid this person in $1,000 in iTunes gift cards. And at that point, you'd be surprised that happens, but we've had reports similar to that, and there's really nothing we can do. And a lot of times, because the gift cards are untraceable, and to top that off, they won't say mail it to this address. They'll say mail it to this PO box to somebody who has filled out a fake application for a PO box. So if somebody's wanting you to pay with gift cards or mail a check to a PO box, those are red flags to be aware of, and certainly report that to us. But those untraceable methods, very hard to track. So that's just something to be very aware of, and that always should raise a red flag for people.
So kind of once the ship has set sail, they're gone for the most part.
That's right. And that's why it's so key too to really slow down that transaction. If somebody's on the phone with you, and I think Chief Fritz and Captain Tiefenbaum had mentioned this, talk to a family member, get off the phone, talk to a family member, run the transaction by somebody else. Because a lot of times what we find too is people will actually, I'll just give an example since we're talking about seniors. We had somebody call an 82-year-old woman, call our office, and she believed that she won, a $10 million prize, and the FBI and Homeland Security were going to show up at her house with the check. And she just had to mail a $2,000 check to them. And they would handle this delivery of this $10 million prize to her. But before she did anything, she called our office and said, "Is this a scam?" And she so wanted to believe it that it really took our advocates who were taking in the complaint. It took them 45 minutes on the phone to just say, "No, this is fake," and kind of explaining how scams work. And in the end, she didn't fall for it. But talk to a family member, talk to a friend before you make that transaction. Slow it down. Call our office and we'll talk you through it. So before you do anything that you're even the least bit suspicious about, run it by someone else. And those moments that you're thinking about it or talking about it with them, you're probably not going to fall for it.
That's good advice right there. And so when we talk about, just how big of an issue this is there any statistics or metrics that really point to, just how widespread, these scams or, just different ways people are getting fooled out of their money, sadly?
Well, what I can tell you about our department, we've handled in 2019, we had 75 reported investigations into fraud. Last year we had 73 cases, and so far to date this year, we've taken 32 reports of scams, identity theft, things of those nature.
Wow. So you guys, no shortage of business on that end, seems like.
We got in our office, we get about 120,000 complaints a year across the state, consumer complaints. Now that ranges from scams to calling about robocall complaints. So that might not mean that there's money exchanged, but they keep getting scam calls. So about 120,000 a year complaints. We get about 70,000 of them are unwanted robocalls. And at any given time, we have about 200 matters open, and some of our stuff can be somewhat wide ranging because again, we do look for patterns, and if there's a bunch of complaints, we may open a larger case. And just something that's a little unique about the Attorney General's office and how we deal with kind of scams and fraud, we have the ability to bring criminal cases, but also civil cases. So sometimes we're able to get restitution for consumers through a civil matter as well. But we also bring criminal cases too.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about, I know it's hard to catch up with these people and track them down. This is probably for Captain right here. But when talk about the punishment, I know it's hard to catch up with these people, but what are the percentages that of people who do actually go to conviction and are held accountable for these things?
I would say, unfortunately, more of them get away with it than the numbers that are prosecuted. As you mentioned, it's just so hard to track them down, and it is so time consuming we have to subpoena these bank accounts, subpoena these companies that are issuing these gift cards, and try and track them down. And if the funds end up filtering out of the country, which oftentimes they do, you can see the complications there, and it makes prosecution almost impossible. A lot of the phone numbers, if it's a scam that's over the phone, there's difficulty with that too. They use voice over IP phone numbers that aren't even registered to a person. They're not a legitimate carrier. And it's pretty much like chasing a ghost. So it makes it very difficult.
And this question is for Ms. Haywood. I know we've seen past couple of months, we've seen a lot of scams and hacks on a large scale level when you talk about, the meat industry and the oil pipeline and things like that. So obviously it's a big issue on multiple levels. Do we think obviously, internet security and virtual security would have to, we're going to change. Do we think laws are going to become more strict to where, it would deflect some of these people from otherwise getting in this kind of line of work, if you know what I'm asking?
Sure. No, and that's a great question. And, as Captain Tiefenbrun was saying, it's really hard to catch these people. So even if the laws were to strengthen the punishment, we're still trying to catch them. One of the things that's happening with scammers and why they're able to be consistently so effective is that they can sometimes beat the technology. We're just talking about spoofing phone numbers. We get a lot of complaints about, I got this spam call, and we'll trace it, and it'll be a law-abiding citizen whose number was spoofed, because they're really getting ahead of the technology. So, for example, something that we're doing in the robocall arena is we're working with other state AG offices, we're working with the FTC, and actually the industry as well, and the phone providers. I don't know if people have noticed. Now you sometimes will get a spam call on your cell phone. So you'll notice like a spam risk. So they're passing more laws to kind of help us, but really it takes industry to kind of help enforcers catch these people and to keep them from getting too far ahead of the technology. Unfortunately, in the robocall arena, we are seeing some movement and some help from industry.
And so let's talk about ways to just protect yourselves, protect your privacy. Obviously, these people are going to come calling whether we want them to or not. But what are some of the key things that we need to make sure we're doing? I know a lot of people like myself have, money apps or bank apps on their phones or computers and things like that. I guess, Chief, this might be best directed towards you. What can we do, right now to make sure we're shoring up ourselves?
Well, for the online stuff, obviously, be very protective of your passwords. Don't have your passwords so simple that anybody can figure them out. Change your passwords frequently. Again, it goes back to being careful. Who do you know who you're communicating with, and try to be 100% sure. There, especially with the phishing schemes, you may think it's from someone who is really not from the institution you're dealing with. So, like Amy said, just sometimes just pump the brakes, pause, and reach out and call the institution or go through your normal login. Really, it just takes people like the prize thing. There's no such thing as a prize that you have to pay for. So you didn't win anything if you got to pay. So it's just actually reading into it, taking your time, thinking about it, talking to your family or friends, and working through it. Or reach out for us or the Missouri Attorney General's office. There's a lot of resources out there for checks and balances to make sure before you proceed with anything.
And this is something, that might be a good idea for families, but, obviously we say older people are targeted more just for various reasons we've already discussed. Is it worth having the conversation, with your parents or your grandparents or whoever, just going through the steps if someone does call you with something wonky, like, one of the many scenarios we've discussed today?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I recommend that not only with your elderly relatives, but your young family members that are just getting into, they got the technology. They're with their computers and their phones. And especially, I've got a 20-year-old son who's just now working, and he's got online accounts. You know, he does a lot of his bank transactions. So making them aware of these scams that are out there.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything either from a law enforcement perspective, or even from the Attorney General's perspective, that scams that we haven't, maybe aren't the usual run of the gambit, what we could start seeing maybe here in the next couple of years or so that you guys have your eyes on?
Well, it's what's next, because as technology changes, the scammers they change with technology, and they adjust rapidly. So, we learn as we go, unfortunately, but as technology emerges, so does the scams. They get more complicated and sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. And Captain, kind of talk about how, obviously it's always a catch-up game, but, have you guys seen where you guys make progress, say, okay, we're catching up a little bit, or, we have these new ways to fight this or that?
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle, and typically, we're on the backside of it because we're still learning about these scams as we get the calls. So we do use our social media a lot to put that out there and spread the word that, hey, this is a new scam we've been aware of. We've done that several times, especially when our agencies use, because they've even used officers that are they'll use names of our officers that are legitimate officers in our department, and so we have to explain to them that, yeah, this is a scam. Don't fall for it. Again, it's just hopefully people try and step back and use some common sense and realize that, hey, the law enforcement isn't going to pressure you for money. If your loved one is in jail, they're probably going to call you personally. It's not going to be somebody else calling you, say they need some money to set them free and things like that.
Just to follow up on that, that's why education and talking about it is so important, because we don't know what we're going to see next. And there's no way to predict it. They seem to be able to play on whatever vulnerability is out there. That when there was when the healthcare law was passed several years ago, now everybody's talking about we're affiliated with the federal government and take advantage of the new healthcare plan. And when student loan for, a different student loan program was passed by Congress, that was a big scam. They call and say, consolidate your student loans into this program. And so, there's always the next big thing, pandemic relief, the stimulus kind of thing. So you just never know.
Mm-hmm. And I know we talked about reporting, these things, but as a victim, from a legal perspective, and just, whether it's hitting up your bank or whatever might have been scammed, what are things that we should do? What are some steps we should take as victims immediately after knowing that this is happening, maybe ways that we can protect ourselves and stop the bleeding? So,
once you become a victim, then obviously you need to contact your local police department and contact your financial institutions. A lot of times they'll be helpful with you, and you need to report those to get your money back in some cases. We have assistance on our website that you can fill out forms for identity theft, and that provides us with a lot of information. We'll need access to your financial records, and then at that point, we'll take the case and start subpoenaing the records and try and get the information we need that hopefully lead us to a suspect. But again, a lot of times it's a wild goose chase. I'll be honest with you, it's a tough case to make, and these scammers are very good. The best thing is prevention. If you can limit your activity on social media, limit what personal information you put out there. A lot of these social media accounts, it's friends and relatives. They know where you work, they know what you do and all that. There's no need to put that out there for strangers to get, and then they just have more information about you if they're going to try and open fraudulent accounts and things like that. So just limit as much as you can your exposure to benefit yourself.
That's all great advice. I think panelists, we've kind of wrapped up a lot of the big questions we have. I know we have some comments from people who are tuning in to us right now. We can go on to those if we'd like. We get up a question about receiving a text from a company that wants personal information. Anybody want to tackle that one?
I can tackle that one. I have definitely seen the text, the FedEx or Amazon text. They say Amazon has a package or FedEx has a package to deliver, or is having problems with your package, and there's a link. Never click on it, and certainly don't give any information to that through that link. Again, in that instance, if you are expecting a package, log into your Amazon account and check it that way, because a lot of times Amazon has that, will track that anyway. So if you are expecting a package and you get a text about that, I would go to the company that you're expecting it from and log into your account that way. Don't click on that link, because that is a new scam that's out there, and whoever raised that, that's becoming more prevalent, and we're seeing that more. And again, if somebody did click on that and provide the information, very difficult to track. So again, on that piece, education is the big thing. Delete that text and don't fall for it.
That's good advice right there. So I guess panelists, we can, do we have any more questions? Before we move ahead, I don't want to jump. This is a great discussion we're having. I think I've learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else has too. Is there anything else, or anything that you guys want to say right now that I guess you could talk to that you've seen that help people out?
Well, right here, I want to throw something else out that we see in our area, and I think across the nation, is just at the fuel pump when you're getting gas. Most people are paying with the card nowadays, and making sure you're at a gas station. When you look at that pump, I always grab the card where you swipe your card or insert your card. Make sure it's secure, and make sure the seals are on the gas pump that show that area has been secured, because they're putting scanners on there or skimmers to get your information off your credit card, and then they can use all your information. So be careful where you buy gas, and look at the pump and make sure the integrity of the pump is in place. And all those pumps at the legitimate gas stations should have seals on them to show that they're secured in where the credit card device is.
That seal, where the seal is going to be right there where you insert your card.
Yeah, it'll be around that panel, yes, to show that it'll be around the lock to show that it's not only locked, but it's also sealed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm sure with summer and travel, obviously it's going to be a holiday weekend here in a couple of days, so that'll be a big one people keep their eyes on for.
And Brian, the other thing I don't think we've touched on much is with all the online activity, a lot of people sell merchandise online, whether it be on Craigslist or Marketplace and that. And that's another avenue for scams. If somebody's going to buy a high dollar item sight unseen and then send you more money than what it costs and tell them they want you to ship it to them, and then they change their mind that they don't want it shipped, that's kind of a scam that they do, that they'll send you $2,000 saying, okay, the item's $1,500, here's $500 for shipping. And then a day later, they'll send another email or a phone call and say, hey, I decided shipping wasn't that much. If you could send me that $500 back. Well, this is a fraudulent check that's already been deposited in their account. So now the victim's sending them $500, and the individual will never show up to pick up the item, and he just made off with your $500. And then anytime you're going to sell something, it's best to do it in person. People aren't going to drive a great distance to buy these items, so do it in person. I know our police department offers a safe exchange zone, so you can do it in a public place. I encourage anybody to do that. Do it at a well-frequented business, a quick trip lot or something like that, where there's a lot of people around, so that it don't create a danger for you, and you can do your exchange if you're insistent on selling things online.
No, that's a good point. And I think that's a big thing you're seeing a lot of people see at those departments, just so safe places to be. Daylight too, I'm guessing, during the daytime when obviously more people be out.
Correct.
And so I know you had mentioned some of the small businesses or those boutiques, or, they do a lot of specialty stuff online these days too. Or what are some resources folks can go to maybe check into some of these companies? Would Better Business Bureau be one of them, or just Googling? Or what are some advice people can do on their own, some homework on their own to make sure these people are legit, or even at best, they just have a good reputation to know that if I send money, I'm going to get what I asked for?
Yeah, I would suggest the Better Business Bureau. If you're making purchases on eBay, obviously they give a rating, and you can look into some of the history. And a lot of times you can Google these places, and you can tell if somebody's had a bad experience with them. There'll be a lot of complaints. If it's somebody that's notorious for doing that, you'll usually find something online for that. And the same way with Marketplace. I've even seen it myself where somebody's had a bad experience with a particular individual, and they'll post their profile online and explain that they were frauded in such and such manner. So just do a little research on the internet, and that'll get you a long way.
And going back to the meetup exchange in person, I know sometimes people don't necessarily might not live close to a police station, but where are some other good, safe places they can go to meet up, and where are some of the types of places they should be recommended to do these exchanges on purchases or things like that?
It's just really any public place where there's a lot of people around. Because obviously, if you're a scammer and you tend to do harm to somebody or rob them, you're not going to do it where there's a bunch of other people around, a bunch of cameras, things like that, a well-lit place. So usually if you set up that location, like I said, at a quick shop where there's a lot of people in and out, you can even go in the lobby of a restaurant or a business. And it's usually a lot safer than trying to do it and just meeting somebody on a back street or something.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Chief, do you have any comments to wrap up, or did we cover all the key points?
I think we covered all the key points. It's an ongoing issue, and it will be. This is not going to go away. So it's really about education and people being vigilant. Some of it's as simple as if you don't recognize the phone number or caller ID, you don't have to answer. If it's important, they'll leave a message. Sometimes it's just simple common sense, but I understand where people get unsure or they get excited about something and offer. So I just really think it comes down to we just have to be consistent with our messaging we put out and educate people and get our family members talking to their family members and neighbors and talk about this issue.
Perfect. Captain, we have anything? Did we cover all your points?
I feel like we covered it all. So hopefully the public is informed. And like I said, an educated citizen is your best defense. And if people use common sense and really review things, and I know my dad always told me if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. So, just use that philosophy and really comb through your things, your emails, your text, phone calls from companies. You can always return and call the company with a number an email and just make sure you're talking to who you think you're talking to.
No, that's a good point. I think your dad's right on that one. If it's too good to be true, think twice about it.
Right.
Amy, I'm saving the best for last. Any closing remarks, or did we cover all the key points?
No, you really did, and that is a great way to end on. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, that's what scammers call to do, is to prey on your vulnerabilities and make you think that they have this great thing for you, and it's a great deal. But if someone calls and says you want $1 million, you got to send $1,000 check in. Well, that's not true. So yeah, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, thank you guys so much for giving up your lunchtime. I know this is a sacred time during the workday, so I appreciate you guys protecting us as always and keeping us informed just for a couple of minutes during the day. I really appreciate you guys, and I know a lot of the community does too. And thank you everybody for tuning in today, and thank you KSDK, and thank you McDonald's and Christian Foods for the sponsorship. I think we've had a pretty great discussion. I know we've gone over a lot of the basics, but also learned a few things too. I know at least I have. So. This was a great discussion. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me. I love to have these. So that'll close it out for today's lunch. We'll get out here a couple minutes early, and thank you again.
Have a good day.
Are you curious about life as a police officer? Have you ever wanted to ride along during a patrol shift or learn how to investigate a crime scene? Chief Kurt Frizz invites you to join the St. Charles County Citizen Police Academy. This free 12-week program offers citizens of St. Charles County an unprecedented look into the daily operations of their police department through classroom and field instruction. Classes meet Monday evenings between 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. beginning September 13th. Go behind the scenes and learn about the patrol division, crime lab analysis, bomb disposal, air operations, SWAT, crime scene processing, community education, use of force, less lethal weapons, firearms training, and much more. To be eligible for the Citizens Police Academy, applicants must be a resident of St. Charles County, be at least 21 years of age, possess a valid driver's license, and consent to a criminal background check. Classes fill up fast, so apply early. The deadline for applications is July 16th. Applications are available on scmo.org/police. If you have questions, please call 636-949-3057 or send an email to sccpdcitizenacademy@sccmo.org. Be sure to follow St. Charles County Police Department on Facebook and Twitter for additional updates.